Hey, what's up guys? Kane here with XBLA fans, and I'm giving you guys another look at another Super Mega Baseball team. This time I've chosen to go with the Grapplers. I've had a lot of fun with the Grapplers. As you can see, I've played 10 games. I've gone 9-1 with them in Pennant Race right now, so they're pretty solid. I've been pretty much wrecking people with that team, and I've really been enjoying it. I've been having a lot of fun. They have a pretty unique play style in my opinion, and I think that's something that's pretty cool about them. They're quote-unquote a bullpen team, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of things that you're not going to notice right away about this team. Like the fact they are incredibly fast. They actually hit decently well. Not for a ton of power, but enough to get you those doubles in the gap. With their speed, you're going to be able to tear some people up on the base paths. They have a ton of speed at that top of that order and all the way through the lineup. There's not really a slow player. There's a lot of people who are going to be able to get you those hits that, you know, are just those infield hits, the things you're not really expecting, and you're just going to be able to run with them and just kind of make it work. You have some really good fielding on the right side of the diamond, and honestly, I've had a lot of luck with this team in general. One of my favorite parts about it is the relievers. The relievers are some of the hardest throwers in the entire game. They're absolutely going to demolish people. And one really cool thing about this team in general is just the fact that it has a play style that allows you to punish people. So when people make mistakes, you can actually take advantage of it with this team. And that's something that's super huge. The ability to be able to steal bases. The ability to be able to, you know, turn a double into a triple. The ability to just kind of make the other person have to think a little bit. So that they're having to do more than just, you know, okay, he's just going to swing for the fence. So it's definitely a different style of play than, say, Nemesis or, you know, Sirloins. One thing I've loved about it is the fact that you can punish those teams. Nemesis in particular. Nemesis has a terrible catcher. Their catcher's arm is garbage. I've stolen third base on her now twice in one game against a player ranked in the 3000s. So it's not that he's bad. It's just that I'm able to abuse the fact that this team is not exactly built to defend against a team like the one I'm playing as. So, you know, like if someone makes a mistake, you're able to really punish it and you're able to do some cool things with it. That was actually super late into a game, and one of the cool things about this team is because of the fact that you have such good relievers, you can pull them in and you can turn a game into a bullpen game really early on. You do not have to sit with your starter. The starters on this team are pretty subpar. They're not necessarily anything that's going to blow you out of the water. They're not bad by any means. There's a couple that I actually think are pretty solid. The top two in particular, I've had a lot of luck with. So it's not that they're necessarily bad pitchers. They're not that bad, but the bullpen is just that good. It's one of those things where when you can get to that bullpen, you know you're going to have, you know, yourself in a good position to win a game. And that's kind of what I've enjoyed about this game, is that a lot of these teams are not necessarily quote-unquote the best. They're not better than every team, but there are strategies and play styles that you can play into that are going to allow you to get the most out of what you're trying to do. And that's what I've really been enjoying. This is a very good team for someone who just likes to, you know, kind of hit it up the middle constantly and, you know, is willing to manually adjust runners. You need to know how to do stuff like that with, you know, some aggressive base running to get the most out of this team, because that's what's going to really allow you to put your opponent on tilt and kind of, you know, do things well. This is actually a good example of me just kind of getting lazy there and almost screwing myself, but thankfully I was able to fix it quick enough. But I mean, this is what I mean. This is a team that top to bottom can hit pretty decent. I mean, the bottom end of your order is not good by any means. They're pretty subpar. This team feels a lot more like a traditional baseball team. You got a lot of speed in 1 and 2. You got some really good hitters at 3 and 4. And then around 5 and 6, they're still okay. But once you hit 7 and 8, it's a little rough. And I mean, I'm totally okay with that because of the fact that, you know, you have good defense. You have another catcher on this team with a beast of an arm. Like, this guy will throw you out every single time. People really do need to start realizing which teams actually have a catcher that isn't just, you know, there for offense, because those guys are dangerous. But when you're playing against someone like Nemesis, who literally can't throw for crap, I don't even think he is necessarily the worst, but it's not a good one. And one cool thing about this game, I still love the physics on some of these hits, because they just get kind of bonkers. But the thing I was talking about earlier is I really love the ability with this team to actually turn things into triples, to actually, you know, get an in the Parker when someone screws up, to actually, you know, get the extra bases. It's super, super clutch. And that's something that I had a harder time doing with a team like Wide Loads, despite the fact I love them so much. It's definitely not built for that kind of play style. This is a really good team for someone who's willing to just continually hit it right back up the middle. You know, hit it to those gaps, slap it around the field, and take the time to actually steal some bases. I mean, things will not always work, but for the most part, it allows you to have a play style that plays more aggressive. And I've got an entire video talking about how to do this that you should definitely check out. It's got more footage of me playing as the Grapplers and kind of just destroying some people for the most part. I would say, like, of my games, I think I looked, 4 of them were run rules where people surrendered in the first inning. And then, like, the other 6, I think only 2 of them were actually really tight games. It's been a pretty good team for me so far. My one loss was by someone who had actually already beaten me earlier on a Wide Loads game as well, and he and I have been playing super tight into late innings. It's one of the few people that, you know, like every once in a while you'll play someone and be like, okay, this guy kind of knows what he's doing. It's nice to see. But this is what I mean by, like, I really love the fact that you can continually punish people with this team, and you can continually run on them. It's super clutch. I mean, at the end of the day, it may be one of those things where you didn't even need to. Because like I said, there is some pop in this lineup. Not near what you're going to see on Sirloins, Nemesis, or even Overdogs for that matter, I don't think. But it's pretty dang solid. And while it doesn't always work out, every once in a while you're going to play a little too aggressive. You're going to kind of tilt yourself from trying to just do a little too much. I've been really enjoying the ability to kind of have a little bit more control of the game and not having to rely on, you know, like kind of just power swings knocking them out of the park. It's really nice playing with a faster team, playing with something that's a little bit more speed heavy, gives you a little bit more control. And that's just on the team on offense. Like, I haven't even gotten to talk about the pitchers yet or the defense on this team, because it is really solid. But this is what I mean by, like, I'm going to continually take risks on this team, and they don't always work out, but when they do, you look really good. Now, one thing I do with this team pretty frequently is I'll pull my pitcher either the first or second time through the order. One nice thing about that is, even like with kind of normal baseball, when people start to see a pitcher long enough, they kind of get used to how things work. This kind of shakes that up a little bit. So, you know, you can't really time it as well when suddenly someone's fastball just completely changes on the speeds and stuff. Suddenly they have different pitches than they had, you know, an inning ago. Because when you think about it, you know, like in general in baseball, people have struggled the third time through the order. In Super Mega Baseball, you got to remember that it's the same opponent every single time. You know, it's not necessarily, you know, going to work the same as baseball, where it's going to wait that long, because once he's had, you know, 10 at-bats against you, he might have kind of figured out the gist of what you're doing with a certain pitcher. And when you add a different arsenal, or, you know, a different arm angle, or, you know, a different, you know, even just throwing lefty versus righty, it can kind of mess with some people. And I've been kind of enjoying the ability to do that, especially because it allows you to use a pinch hitter much earlier in the game. One thing I will comment on is I felt like the bench for this team was pretty subpar. And I didn't really feel like it was anything amazing. I will say there are 2 relievers on this team who are absolute beasts. I've been loving playing his gun, and I think there's another one who's an absolute disgusting pitcher. And you can just really do some cool things with these guys. They've got some massive heat on their fastballs, and you're going to notice that their stat bars are basically souped all the way up. One particularly nice thing you're going to realize pretty quickly about this team is they're incredibly fast, incredibly good in the field, and it's going to allow you to make a lot of plays that you might have been struggling to make with a slower team that's not as good at fielding. And that is super, super clutch, because there's going to be games where you're going to need it, and there's also going to be games where suddenly that demoralizes the hell out of who you're playing against. And that is super, super clutch. Just the ability to get to balls that you're not expecting to get to, where, you know, some of these like kind of bloop hits that used to work are going to be able to get thrown out quicker because you're able to get to it. And that's just super, super convenient. Like, all around, this is just a really solid team. It's got a lot of offense, especially top-loaded. It's mostly toward the front. Some of the guys lack in contact in particular, but it's not something that I've realized really was hurting me too much. Now, whether or not that's because I traditionally prefer using the power swing or not, I can't necessarily tell you, but I mean, I have been slapping the ball around with just the normal contact swing occasionally as well, and having a lot of luck doing that. Definitely harping on the fact that if you're going to play a team like this, you need to get fluid on running around the base pass. That's definitely going to be what it comes down to. Separating someone from being decent and someone who can actually take full advantage of this team. Definitely recommend checking them out. I've had a lot of fun with them. Again, I've only done a video so far for the wide loads. This will be the Grapplers now. I'm going to be looking to do another team sometime in the next week, probably. And if you guys have a specific team you want me to check out, please do let me know. I'm more than willing to do all of them eventually. But if you guys leave specific comments saying like, hey, go do, I don't know, Overdogs, I'm more likely to go check it out. So definitely appreciate you guys checking out these videos. I really do appreciate them. Like, this has just been a really fun team for me to play as. I've actually just had a lot of fun with them. They've been really solid, and they really give you a lot of room to just kind of outplay the opponent. And that's something that's pretty cool. And I really love the fact that Super Mega Baseball has done a really good job of making teams feel different, but not worse. And this is one of the least played teams online. I intentionally picked them for that reason. I looked at the stats that Metal had posted on Reddit, and I was like, okay, this is one that nobody's playing as. Let's check them out and see why. And it's a really good team for completely tilting your opponent into submission to the point that he's going to go crazy and he's going to make a ton of dumb, bad plays. And when you can do that to someone, they're going to quit early. So if you want to get some fast, easy wins, and you're willing to do the work to learn how to hit correctly and also how to run the bases, you're going to be able to punish people. And that's what I like. And when you do have those long games that drag out because, you know, you're playing against someone of equal skill and the two of you are struggling to get hits, you're going to be able to do some things. So it's really good for punishing people who are not as good and don't really know what they should be doing, especially when they frequently get tilted and they just panic. And it's also really good so far against, you know, stronger teams that even do know what they're doing, because you've got a lot of tools at your disposal. You got a really good bullpen, you got a really fast team, and you got a decent bit of pop. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I really do appreciate it, and later.